Can this year's Arizona football team be even better than last year's football team? And what is the likelihood that that happens?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. And making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Michael Luke. All right, this show is brought to you by Gametime. Check it out at Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. All right, we got a lot to get to this show, but mainly we are going to talk about Arizona football and the likelihood, the possibility, the chance, whatever you want to call it, that this year's team is going to be better than last year's team. And I think that you can definitely make that case. Now, some of the things that we need to look at first are last year's Arizona team was clearly one of the top 5 teams in school history. They finished 11th in the country. I don't know that they were better than certainly the 1993-94, where the team that finished 10th in the country and absolutely demolished Miami in the Fiesta Bowl. Chuck Levy is still running down the middle of the field. Or certainly not better than 1998, where the team went 12-1 and beat Nebraska in the Holiday Bowl and finished 4th in the country, and I believe had 17 or 18 NFL players. Might have even been more. Or I think there was a Larry Smith team that finished in the top 10 as well. I don't know that they were better than those year's teams, but I do think that there is a real likelihood that they were right there. I mean, you can just tell it by the way they finished, and you could also wonder a little bit, how good would this team have been had Noah Fifita been playing the entire season? I don't know. Wink, wink, Jedd Fisch. Good job there, Jedd Fisch. But overall, this is I think moving forward, if you're from Arizona perspective, there is a chance that this year's team can be better. But now we need to look at some of the strengths of last year's team. And I think we need to start, obviously, on the lines. That was a big thing and something you got to give Jedd Fisch a lot of credit for, in that he built up the offensive and defensive lines, and he got them bigger and he got them better. And a big part of that, obviously, was you had a lot of NFL players. NFL players generally really, really matter. And I think the big thing about it is that, on the defensive or on the offensive line, Jordan Morgan, first round pick, obviously a good job by Kevin Sumlin there getting him. But then also on the other side, Jonas Savaiinaea, going to be a first-round pick most likely. And if he's not, he's going to be a second-round pick. Then on the inside, you got Wendell Moy, who that was another really good pickup. Then you had Leif Magnuson. Then you had, then you had Josh Baker. You had a lot of different players that could play. You saw though in the Alamo Bowl that when things kind of hit the fan though, that you had a couple guys that probably shouldn't have been out there. But I also put that far more on what Jedd Fisch was doing. Joe Borjon should not have been out there, period, point blank. But that starting line was very good. And then on the defensive line as well, it was huge. You had Taylor Upshaw as one of your defensive ends. Then opposite him, you had Isaiah Ward. Then you had BBN, Big Bill Norton. Then Tia Savea, Tyler Manoa, Sione. You had so many different big guys. But, I think you could also make the case too, maybe they weren't utilized maybe nearly as much as they could have been. And I think what I mean by that is that there wasn't really a huge impetus from this coaching staff to be able to get those players up the field, to be able to get them after the quarterback. It was more of a, just hold your gap mentality. And that is something that Duane Akina does not want to do. Now, again, we're going to talk about that a little bit more coming up here, but there is going to be a change in approach. So let's now move back to the offensive side of the football. And because I think that's where this gets interesting. Now, last year's team had the we had the displeasure of having to watch Jayden de Laura for 4 games, and Jayden de Laura was a player that just wasn't very good, honestly, and ran around, threw the ball a ton, and would throw the ball out of bounds. You never really got the sense that he ever understood how to read a defense, and that became more and more of an issue over time. He just wasn't good enough, in my opinion. And that's why you lost the Mississippi State game. You lost the Mississippi State game because Jayden de Laura just didn't know what he was doing. And with de Laura, that was kind of a big part of his entire thing here at the U of A, was that sure, he had an awesome arm, but he didn't know how to read defenses. And you saw that again against Mississippi State, and Arizona was well on its way to losing against Stanford before Noah Fifita came in. So Noah Fifita now comes in, and you're going to have him for the entire season. That is a benefit. That is clearly a benefit for Arizona, that you have Noah Fifita for the entire season. And Noah Fifita is just a much better quarterback. And I would imagine in year 2, as a Division I starter, you're going to see a player that is, I think, going to be able to put up a very nice year. I think Dino Babers and the staff understand what he can do. They also understand that he can, how to best utilize him, and being able to extend the plays with his feet a little bit. I mean, we'll see obviously how that plays out, but I think there is a lot to like in that realm. And then, so again, I'm going to say that Arizona's quarterback situation is better this year than it was last year. And if it's not, then I put a lot of that on, like I said, I'll put a lot of that on this coaching staff, but I have every reason to believe that that it's going to be better that's going to be better this year. And I don't even really think that it's going to be close, because, again, you had a quarter of the year where you had Jayden de Laura as your starter. So I'm going to say the quarterback position is going to be better. Now, I do understand that you could say, well, Mike, the offensive line is not going to be as good. I think you can, and I certainly get that. A big part of the offensive line and a huge question mark is, what can Big Rhino do up front? If Rhino at that left tackle spot is good for Arizona, then Arizona is going to be in very, very good shape. If Rhino struggles, though, Arizona is going to have some major, major issues. But you also know that you've also got some players that you can rely on. I would expect Wendell Moy to be an NFL-type player this coming season. Big Jonah, we know what he's going to do. But the reason that I am also a little bit cautiously optimistic is that I don't believe that Josh Oglesby would have Jonas Savin, or have a Rhino at left tackle, if he didn't believe that Jonas Savinea could take over and be, I don't think that he would. I think he would move Jonas Savinea over to left tackle if he didn't think that Rhino was capable of doing it. Again, you're going to have to see it on the football field, but so far so good when it comes to that. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Leif being out is a problem. I love Leif. I think Leif is one of the more underrated players on this entire football team, but it is what it is. He's been out. And then I think at guard, I would like to see Deuce be the guard. I think he has a higher upside, and I just think he's better than Shango. And so that's what I would like. I don't expect this offensive line to be better, but there still is a lot of talent there. And I think that you can buoy a lot of this by the 2 tight end looks that you're going to be seeing. I expect Arizona's tight ends to be even better than last year, and I expect them to be more utilized. I mean, last year it was basically just Tanner McLaughlin at that tight end position, and then it was essentially nobody else. Kean Burnett, I think, had 40 yards. This coaching staff, I think, is going to utilize 5 tight ends, and I think Kean Burnett is going to be a massive, massive part of what this coaching staff wants to do. And I think he's going to be an NFL player as well. I think you're going to have a lot more catches, a lot more yards from this tight end position. And I think it's going to be a really fun thing to watch. And we're going to talk about that coming up here. But first, Gametime. Check it out. Download the Gametime app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Here's the deal. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms do apply. And I think the great thing about Gametime is this. With Gametime, you know that you can go into a game at the last second and you're probably going to have a ticket. And that is a great thing about it. A lot of times you don't know what you're going to be able to have. With Gametime, you know that you're going to be able to get a ticket, and we have seen Arizona fans take advantage of this. So again, download the Gametime app today, and you can get into a game, you can get into a concert, you can get into a variety of different things, and I think that you're going to be more than happy with the results. Also, FanDuel, check it out. FanDuel.com, all kinds of good stuff. When it comes to FanDuel. Listen, football is here, basketball right around the corner, and I don't think there's any better place to be than FanDuel. So again, check it out, FanDuel.com. Another one of these ones where you will thank me later, because with FanDuel, you know that your money is good, and it is fun to be able to bet on things where you know that you got a little bit of skin in the game, and you can maybe take a little bit of that money from the house. So again, check it out, FanDuel.com, all kinds of good stuff. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I am your host, Mike Luke. Thanks for making this your first listen of the day. All right, now, let's get back to the offense and why it could be better. So again, you're going to have a lot of 2 tight end sets. I think that's where it's going to be exciting to watch how this all does unfold. So with that being said, the next step, I think, then is looking at where exactly how are the rest of the skill guys. And I don't think that Arizona's running game is going to have any bit of a dropout. As a matter of fact, I think that I think it's going to be just as good, and I think it could be even better. And when I say that it is it's a group of people that all I think you got multiple NFL type entities in there. And let's talk about Big Bill Merritt, or Krosky Merritt first. Corey Krosky Merritt. He looks different than everybody else on this roster. And when I say he looks different than everybody else on this roster, I mean that. He is a dude who is he looks like an SEC running back. And not only does he look like an SEC running back, he looks like the type that is going to dish out a lot of pain to a lot of different players. He can get up he's very patient with his blocks, but he can also run by players. He can get through. He can get into the secondary. He can make guys miss. He was a very, very nice get for Arizona. And you got to remember too the story where this is a dude who nobody really thought was going to be eligible, because it appeared that he had already played 5 seasons, but he was there was some stuff with his jersey and swapping it back and forth that I think you need to that obviously was an interesting situation. So there's that. Now, when it comes to the rest of it, Quali Conley. Totally, you know what you got with Quali Conley. You know that he is going to be a very, very good running back, and you also know that I think Rayshon Speedy Luke. You want to get Fam involved in plays. You see what you can do there. But overall, I think the running backs are going to be every bit as good. Jonah Coleman was good. Michael Wiley was good. DJ Williams was good. All those guys were good. I think this running back unit's going to be just as good as those. So we will see how that plays out. But that is my bold proclamation. Then when it comes to the wide receivers, I think between T-Mac, between between T-Mac, between Malachi Riley, Montana Lamonius Craig, and Jeremiah Patterson, this is going to be a group that is going to be even better. I really think that. Jacob Cowing was the man. Jacob Cowing was absolutely a fantastic wide receiver, and I think one of the best wide receivers to come through here. I think he's going to be in the NFL for a long time, but there's just something a little bit different about watching Jeremiah Patterson. His quick twitch, his burst, his ability to be able to get from point A to point B is really, really impressive. And he just feels like the kind of player that just kind of slipped through the cracks. And I don't really care, what his ratings were in high school or junior college. You know it when you see it. He is going to have a big, big impact, I think, for the University of Arizona. And then T-Mac. Listen, I had some questions about T-Mac and where he was going to be. I had some questions about T-Mac and where he was going to be at this time, because again, he's been off for a couple months, but you look in practice and he looks very, very good. He's already kind of manhandling players. He's making a lot of different. He's just making things. He's just making things look very, very easy, and it's been fun to watch. Honestly, he is a specimen. He is a player that does not come through here, and when he does come through here, you need to enjoy it because you do not see a lot of players that are like that, and I think that's what's very exciting about all of this. Then you also look at, I think Montana Lamonius Craig. People know I'm not the biggest fan of Montana, but I also do think that he's a good football player as far as maybe blocking, things like that. But this team, though, I don't expect there really to be much of a drop off there on the offense. That my only question really is the O line, and that's kind of where I'm at now. When it comes to the defense, that's where it gets interesting. Let's talk about one unit that I think will be better, and that is obviously players in the defensive backfield. You got Tacario Davis back. That was huge, obviously. With Tacario Davis, he's an NFL player. He's showing up on a lot of different boards. You're going to have a lot of different scouts that are looking at him very, very closely. If he can intercept, if he can catch the football this year, that's going to be a real problem for a lot of different passing attacks. But all the safeties are fantastic. You got three dudes that we already know can play. You've also got an Owen Goss coming in as well. And listen, losing Ephesians Prysock, that was obviously a loss. There's no way around it. It's probably an NFL player, but I do think that Groves Killebrew, I think he's going to be right in there. And then Traden Stukes as well. Also, I think there's a lot to be said. But the secondary, I think, is going to be better. I really do. And then I have to look at the linebacking unit, and Jacob Manu should be even better. I mean, he's a player that you have that doesn't come through here a ton. He's got very much of that Marcus Bell type feel to it, that he's just kind of he's just always around the ball. He can make impactful plays, and he's just very good at what he does. He's a treasure. I think he's going to force his way onto an NFL roster, and just because of how, instinctive, how good he is, and somebody that we should all, I think, enjoy watching here while he is at the University of Arizona. Now, at the other linebacker spot, Martell Early kind of really took that spot and ran with it towards the end of the year. I think it's going to be much the same with Owen Goss. It's hard to say that Owen Goss is going to be able to be as good as Martell Irby was for the Wildcats, but I also don't know that he can't be somewhere in there. And I do think that there is some chances for the linebackers to be, in that mold as well. Because again, I think with when you get linebackers that are, young, like a Tay Brown, like a Kamu, I think that you can work with them a little bit. And if you can work with them, then I think there's something that you can also go with. Now, we're going to talk about the defensive line here in just a second. But first, we need to talk about Ibotta. All kinds of good stuff with Ibotta. Here's the deal. Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 off for just trying Ibotta by using code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Get real cash back on your everyday purchases with Ibotta. Download the free US-based app for cash back on in-store and online shopping. With an app like this, it just makes things a lot easier for you. Ibotta is here to make your life better, to make your life easier. Check it out, Ibotta. The great thing about Ibotta is that, you can have somebody else do stuff for you. I mean, that's cool stuff. So again, you don't have to worry about it. Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you do register. Check it out, Ibotta. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's see. Let's talk a little bit about. The defensive line. I have a hard time seeing the defensive line being as good as it was last year. But I also think having a new. I also think having a different. Scheme might be a little bit more advantageous for some of these players. Gone are the days of just wanting to fill up blockers and all of that. No. You want to be able to get after the quarterback, and that's what I think that's what this obviously Akina wants to do. Trey Smith, Ty off the edge, Chuba, and then Isaiah Johnson, backed up by Kevon Darton. I don't think the D-line is going to be as good as it was last year, but I do think that there is enough talent, and I also think that this coaching staff is going to be able to utilize the D-line in a pressure-type manner in which I don't know that the other coaching staff would have used. And I think that's what one thing that Akina is very, very interested in this year. So we will find out how that works, because if the D-line is as good as it was last year, even though it's going to be different, Arizona is going to be in very, very good shape. And then the special teams, obviously, you got Tyler Luke back. I expect the kick return game to be a little bit more utilized, mainly because I think you have a coach that wants to utilize the kick return game. So we will see how that plays out. But overall, I think this team has every possibility of being better than 2023. And, and we kind of laid out the reasons why. Now, again, there's certain position units that you know will not be as good. But you also know, too, that you're going to have Noah Fafita, knock on wood, barring injury. You're going to have a coaching staff that is going to start Noah Fafita the entire season. That is a very, very good thing when you have somebody of that stature, of that caliber, obviously. Now, we're going to talk a lot about Noah again tomorrow. We're going to talk about, what kind of year can Noah? What should people really expect from him? Can he be in contention for being a first-team All-American? I don't know that he can't. I watch him and I'm like, all right, I don't see why that can't be the case. But again, you got to continue to improve on the field. But it's going to be fun to see how this all does play out. Going to talk a little bit about Cole Tannenbaum as well. Got the backup. Looks like got the backup spot as well. So there's all kinds of stuff there. But this team, like I said, college football playoffs or bust, my friend. I believe that Arizona has the best talent in the Big 12. I believe that this is a team that can have a ton of team success, and they can have it in year one under Brent Brennan. Obviously, this has to happen, but as long as this does happen, then I think Arizona is going to be in really good shape. Then we might try to get to a little bit of basketball as well, but again, Arizona's never been able to string together two straight really, really good seasons. And that is something that I think is on the minds of a lot of people. There's always, at least in the modern era, there's always kind of been that letdown after a really good season. And that's where it's all come into play. This is big. Because, again, you got all these players back, and they talked about how they wanted to come back and do this with Brent Brennan. So, again, there's going to be, like I said, there's going to be a lot of eyes on this coaching staff and what they can do. So, again, we're going to talk about that. But it's almost here, man. It's about a week and a half away. And, as an Arizona football fan, you just got to be really excited because there's a lot of hope. And, when you have, I think, players of this caliber, when you have players of this character, there's a lot of reason to be very optimistic about what you're going to see. So that's kind of where we're at. Wanted to talk about why this team could be better than last year's team, and we'll see. But as always, very, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, we will be back with you first thing tomorrow.